What we love to do on a Wednesday night. West Province Sports and Gt Masters coming to you from the second gear studio down in Welgedegen in Cape Town. Good evening to you, one and all. Joining me, Mike Side, the voice of West Province Motorsport, Frankie Hennis. Frankie, good evening to you.
Yes, good evening. Yes, coming off an extreme festival at Killarney International Raceway. Looking forward to the following round of the Western Province Sports and GT iRacing Master Series. Today we come to you from Italy, from the city of Milan and Monza, and we are at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza for V8 supercars.
Well, this is going to be pretty interesting stuff. I actually had the opportunity last night to go and practice with the guys, and all I can say is overpowered, undertired, crazy, utterly crazy. First gear without any clutch application whatsoever. You just put your foot down, just wheel spins, you grab Cook Sisters worth of steering, and it heads straight towards the scene of the accident. No matter where, you'll find only the very, very good guys at the top end of the field, the likes of Johan Ferree that you see out there on screen, the likes of Luca Kesi that you see out there on screen, the likes of Jaco Steyn, who's hoping to pick up a top three this evening. These guys coming out of turn number one, you might find some of them using first gear. Furthermore, most probably just about everybody else. I know that Jan Spammers was actually trying it last night coming out of turn number one in first gear, but you really have to pedal the accelerator at that point. A big welcome back to Stephen McCarthy. Nice to have him back with us. Leonardo Bacari out there as well. And then Jan Spalmer's one of our top 10 at any race out there.
Yes, Jan Spalmer's out there. Of course, the cars that they use is the Ford Mustang and the Holden Commodores. Those are the two makes of vehicles. And what I noticed in the practice session, I saw 3 Ford Mustangs. Everybody else was out there in the Holden Commodore.
Well, in fact, those 3, Frankie, was that one, Steve McCarthy,
yeah,
Hammond Lazarus, and then the Boltman, Robbie Teams.
Yeah, those are the 3 Ford Mustangs out there. And in practice, the top 9 positions was dominated by the Holden Commodore. So we'll have a look and see that Timothy Stanton working his way around in the Roland intake manifolds Holden, working his way around the circuit. There's the number 12 Jack Daniels car of Renier Hubert, and then the Holden Commodore, the AlphaTauri Holden Commodore of Francois Hubert.
Nice to have him back again. Peter Hubert, the whole Hubert family pretty much out there. And Peter, the one that likes to go with the yellow colors, and that is the proverbial Pennzoil colors as such. JJ van der Merwe out there in one of the Holdens as he works his way around. And then, Swayze Hubert out there as well. So all the Huberts are in it. Swayze Hubert, Peter Hubert, Francois Hubert, Renier Hubert, 4 of them all out there. Who's going to be the fastest? Well, I'm going to say this man. I think he's going to be the quickest out there. And who's going to join him on the front row of the grid? I'm going to hazard a guess. It's going to be that man. That is going to be Luc Lucchesi. That'll be the quickest. Thereafter, yes, I do believe Willem Botha and Francois Hubert. But don't count out Jaco Steyn. I think Jaco Steyn will probably be around about the 5th fastest, roughly around about there, as Willem Botha completes a lap as well. Now, Frankie, those colors, we haven't seen that for a while.
No, the last time we saw that was last year when Team SA took on Team New Zealand, and they had the New Zealand colors. We had the iRacing SA colors. So Willem Botha proudly sporting that color scheme. There is Jaco Steyn in the 88, the Boost Mobile color scheme of that Commodore of his. Here is the 777 out. That's Peter Hubert in the Pennzoil Commodore, busy working his way around the circuit. Famous names on this track. You've got Curvo Grande, you've got Lesmo 1, Lesmo 2, you've got Ascari, you've got Parabolica, a lot of no names. Well,
And our
legendary
favorite,
names.
Retifilio. Oh,
Yeah.
it just rolls off the tongue as they come through Retifilio. And in their language, Retifilio Central and Retifilio Tribune. I don't know exactly how they pronounce that one, but that is the, what is it, Italian
Yes.
pronunciation?
Yes.
Italian pronunciation for that. So the fastest man out there right now is, in fact, as we expected, on the front row of the grid, Johan Fourie. That's going down towards the last corner. So he'll be completing his second fast lap. Look, Lucchese, just 16 hundredths of a second behind him. He'll be the next man to come through there. Let's have a look, see as Johan goes. Oops, so he's not going to go any faster. It's all open now. It's just one error that was made there by Johan Fourie. I don't believe he's going to improve on that 147.557. Let's see when he comes across the line.
No.
No, he's not going to go any faster than what he was, but I do believe that that opens up a possible pole position for Luc Lucchese. Nope, he doesn't manage to go any faster either. Where is Francois Hubert out on circuit? That is, he's still got quite a long way to go to be able to get to the end of that lap. Willem Botha joining him on the second row of the grid. Here comes Willem Botha. He decided he loves his New Zealand versus South Africa colours, and he's kept that. So Willem Botha's 7/10 of a second slower than the fastest man out there, being Johan Fourie, and also not managing to go any quicker than what he was earlier on. So that keeps him exactly where he is. Jaco Steyn has completed his lap. Timothy Stanton, well done. Roland Manifolds, that's Rolly Stanton, his dad, legendary in terms of intake manifolds and carburation and modification to racing cars. Roland Manifolds and Rolly Stanton, the father of Timothy Stanton. And Timothy never ended up working for his dad. He in fact has got his own company, and I think it's pretty much tax related what he does. And Timothy working his way around in the Holden with the Roland intake manifolds livery on the side of that motor car. This is his second lap. 7 minutes of the 10 minutes is gone. Can he get himself up onto the second row of the grid? That's going to be a big ask. He's 1.8 off, a 149.582. So not managing to go any quicker. So that will keep him on the third row of the grid. Swayze Hubert, yeah, he's coming around. Let's see, can Swayze go any quicker? Nope, doesn't look like Swayze is going to go any quicker either. So he will be alongside, at this stage, Timothy Stanton. Oh, Renier Hubert. Good evening, Renier Hubert. He pops up onto the third row of the grid and bumps Timothy down to the fourth row.
Yeah, Renier with the number 12. Jack Daniels, 1.7 seconds off provisional pole sitter Johan Fourie is Renier Hubert. And only the first four cars within a second of each other. Johan Fourie, Luc Lucchese, Francois Hubert and Willem Botha. And then Jaco Steyn is just under 1.3 seconds behind Johan Fourie. So that is Robbie Teams in the Beta Electrical Ford Mustang working his way around, and Robbie finds himself in P10, 2.2 seconds off Johan Fourie. 1 minute to go in the qualifying session, so I think pretty much where you see these 14 drivers, that is where they will start the race. Remember, two 20-minute races, 32% fuel, which means that there will be a pit stop in each of the two 20-minute races.
I quite like that 20-minute format. It goes pretty much for a sprint, but you've also got, and knowing Luc, and thank you to Luc Lucchese for taking over Sandra Bakori, that's out of the country, and Luc Lucchese stepping up to plate and say, okay, all right, I'll take over the necessaries here. And knowing Luc, he would have made a pretty wide fuel window to make it just a little bit more interesting. Robbie Ting's not been able to go any quicker than what he was. Herman Lazarus coming around. Let's see if he can go any quicker and bump himself a little bit further up. A 152.029. That's 2.4 seconds off. But then again, having practiced with these cars myself, it's a whole lot quicker than anything that I could put together. So that wraps up that. Let's have a look at what the grid looks like. On the front row of the grid, as we predicted, Johan Fourie and Luc Lucchese.
Row 2, Francois Hubert and Willem Botha. Row 3, Peter Hubert, Jaco Steyn. Row 4, Reinier Hubert and Timothy Stanton.
Swace Hubert with Jan Spammers rounding out the top 10 from Robbie Teens. Nice to have Stephen McCarthy back. Herman Lazarus, JJ van der Merwe, and then Leonardo Bakari rounding out the top 15 as we've got them. And I do believe that this one is going to be very, very interesting. Now, let me tell you this. Going down into turn number 1, a 90-degree right-hander, a 90-degree left-hander. Big, as Frankie likes to refer to them, sausage curbs on the inside and on the outside. Very, very difficult to traverse that one. Coming out of that corner, if you're in first gear, you're going to turn yourself around in circles unless you've got a brilliant set of Fanatec's and a very, very intelligent right foot. You have to hook up second gear to run from there. Your next set of corners, 2 sets of corners going into the braking margins, you have to use the bridges as a marker to try and pick it up. Slightly blinded on the second entry due to a slight rise in the circuit. Very difficult to get that brake marker right. Rather brake slightly early, over gear it and run out of there in second gear and get onto the gas. And as was said to some of the guys that was battling by Luke Lucchese, get it into a straight line and then climb on the gas. Too many gigawatts, not enough rubber. Beautiful rubber, make no mistake, but there's just not enough of it, Frankie. There's tons and tons of power underfoot. So the guys that have got very intelligent accelerator pedal feet are the guys that are going to do pretty well. That's that second set of corners that I spoke about. They'll come out now into, let's refer to it as the back main, the Retofilio Central, and that works its way down towards the final corner, which is a complete 180-degree bend. Now, hard braking going in there, 1 or 2 gears down into that corner. You can make up a bit of ground going in, but you can make up tons of ground coming out of that corner into the front main at a very high speed, and that then carries all the way down to turn number 1. So that entrance that you see there from the 100-meter, probably around about the 75-meter board for the top runners, Francois Hubert, Johan Fourie, Luke Lucchese, those kind of guys are going to be around about the 75-meter mark. So here we go, Frankie. Pace car is going to pull a Porsche. There we go, a Porsche that's leading them around. Here we go for the first lap of a 20-minute race.
Right, wait for those lights to go off, and away we go as they race their way down into turn number 1. We are green here at Monza. It's Johan Fourie from Luke Lucchese. Right behind him, we have got Francois Hubert. Jaco Steyn is in there as well. Then Peter Hubert having a squiz. Then Willem Botha is in there. Through turn 1 and 2 they go. Now they're working their way towards a Curvo Grande. That's a Curvo Grande they're going through. Then they're going to get to another chicane before it takes them towards Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. They are working their way around, and it is still Fourie that sits ahead of Lucchese. Right on his case is Francois Hubert. Peter Hubert has got his nose ahead there of Willem Botha, followed there by Jaco Steyn as they're trying to get away. The Pepsi Twist cars coming through as well, and that is that's a 12 car of Reinier Hubert. That's in trouble. Swace Hubert is in the 20 car. That is the Pepsi Twist car, as the Jack Daniels car is in trouble.
The Red Bull Holden in that second position, right in there behind Johan Fourie, Luke Lucchese. Francois Hubert, whenever he is out there, you know he's going to be blindingly quick. He had a big smile on his face with Extreme Festival on Saturday. I had a lovely chat with him. Said to him, when are you going to get back into the iRacing League? He says, I've got through all I need to do with the Extreme Festival. This week it's going to be down onto the rig, and there we see him, Francois Hubert in that third position. Peter Hubert, that's the yellow Pennzoil car just behind that. And, well, can they get away from him? We don't get away from Peter Hubert very easily. The front three just hanging on to one another.
Working the way out of Parabolica. That is that final corner. Working the way down the home main. There is nothing between them. We'll get the intervals up now, and then the battle box that you can see exactly how close it is between them. There is a 1/10 of a second between Fourie and Lucchese, and 5/10 of a second between Lucchese and Francois Hubert. 3/10 of a second between Francois and Peter Hubert in P3 and 4. And that's the 4 cars you see on the screen. Right behind them is the 88 car of Jaco Steyn. He's 1.1 seconds behind Peter Hubert. There is Jan Spalmers, 2/10 of a second between himself and Timothy Stanton, as Peter Hubert hammers the wall very hard going into Ascari.
Oh, that was almost taking other people with him. So lots and lots of road rash on that motor car. And Peter Hubert in the 777 gets it all back together again. But that fight with Jaco Steyn, Jan Spalmers and Timothy Stanton, the three of them fighting it out. They've now lost a bit of ground to that front grouping. Luc Lucchesi still within 3/10 of Johan Ferry, but taking 1.1 seconds out of that is Francois Hubert behind them.
This group is racing under the oval, working their way towards the left, right, left, right. That is the Ascari corner, into the left-hander, into the right-hander, into the left-hander they go. Then they go down that long straight before they get to the final corner, and Suresh Hubert hammers the wall pretty hard out there in the Pepsi Twist car.
Unfortunately for him, he just got it completely sideways, and well, a little bit better than what the other Hubert did with the yellow Pennzoil car. Not as heavy a contact as that. Let's go back to the front end of the field. Johan Ferry, he's got to drive defensive because Luc Lucchesi is on the hunt.
Yeah, Lucchesi is right in there, and then just a second, just over a second, now under a second behind them in P3 is the Alpha Tauri Holden Commodore of Francois Hubert, and he's right there with him. Here is Timothy Stanton. Behind Stanton is Jan Spalmers, and they 4 seconds ahead of, or nearly 4 seconds ahead of Steve McCarthy. Timothy Stanton, Jan Spalmers, that's the two of them you see out there working their way through that long right-hander, and the three leaders heading into that left-hander. And here you see Spalmers and ahead of him Timothy Stanton.
Well, I know that Willem Botha has been off track on 3 different occasions, but I don't believe that there was much in the line of damage there. What I find very interesting is that Jaco Steyn is in the pits, and Jaco Steyn has not had any incidents whatsoever. Does that mean that Luc Lucchesi, that set the session up, has made it that there's such a big window that Jaco Steyn could then go into the pits, get out of the traffic, and have a clean run from there on out? Is that possible? It seems to be a possibility.
Gary, I think Jaco Steyn was involved in that situation into Ascari when that other car went off. He clipped him, and that just unsettled the Jaco Steyn car. But I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was Jaco Steyn that was involved in this. Here comes Jan Spalmers, right on the case of Timothy Stanton as they work their way through Parabolica. Through the final corner, Parabolica they come. And it is still Stanton that is fighting off Spalmers as they work their way down the home lap. And a personal best time there for Luc Lucchesi and for Francois Hubert.
Johan Ferry still holding on with the Red Bull car directly in behind him. That's Luc Lucchesi. There's nothing much between them. Francois Hubert very much on the same pace. Now remember, for the 6-hour races, which are now going to become the 4-hour races, which is the first Sunday of every month, Francois Hubert is in fact the teammate of Luc Lucchesi. But on a race like this, Frankie, nah, I don't think there's anything about teammates. You can get Johan Ferry, I'm going with you.
No friends here in this one. Here comes the Stanton Spalmers dice as they head into that left right, and we'll put the track map on, then you can see exactly where the drivers are as they busy work their way around. The two leaders, or the leaders, are making their way out of Lesmo 2, and here comes the 67 of JJ van der Merwe. He's 2.7 behind Suresh Hubert. Then Robbie Teen's out there. That was Bakari in the 11. Oh, the 12 car's in trouble again. And that is the Jack Daniels car of Rainier Hubert. I just saw him have a moment out on the circuit. That's Rainier in the Jack Daniels car. This is a replay of the situation. Just losing it slightly and overdoing it. Luckily, he hammers nothing, and he flicks the Jack Daniels Commodore around and keeps on going. Here comes a 777 of Peter Hubert. Did he just come out of the pit area? Yeah, that Pennzoil Commodore just making its way out of the pit area, and he's not a happy chappy in that car at
Nope.
all.
No, definitely not. Remember, he had that massive incident,
Yes.
and you can see, shall we refer to it as a road rash on the side of that motor car?
Yeah, and I think he took out Jaco Steyn in Ascari, because that's where that situation was. There's Leonardo Bakari sitting all on his own in P11 in the Holden colours. Rainier Hubert 10.1 seconds behind. Leonardo is sitting in that 12th position. Jaco Steyn back out on track again, but he's nearly 30 seconds behind Rainier Hubert, that is in that 12th position.
Willem Botha and Peter Hubert bringing up the tail end of the field, but back to the front end. Johan Verrie starting to eke out just a little bit of a gap. It's not enough to break the toe. That's what it looks like if you look back from the car of Johan Verrie.
Well, it's all about Verrie, Lucchesi and Francois Hubert at this point in time. 6/10 between Verrie and Lucchesi, and then not too far behind Lucchesi, just under a second as well, is Francois Hubert. Having a look from the left rear suspension of the Monster Energy Holden of Verrie, that's what he sees there. What Timothy Stanton sees in his rear view mirror is a whole number 03 iRacing South Africa Holden Commodore of Jan Spalmers that is hounding him heavy, 0.3 of a second between Stanton and Spalmers as they race down towards the Parabolica.
Yep, down towards the Parabolica. They go right on the last, and look at that, how he gets the power. Oh, he gets it completely sideways. I remember what I said to you about the power to weight ratio and the amount of grip that there actually is. Get on the gas just a little bit too hard, and that's exactly what happens. And here we go. The guys, oh, it's Luke Lucchesi that's gone into the pits. Luke Lucchesi into the pit lane.
Lucchesi into the pits. I saw Timothy Stanton also dive into the pits after that car was snaking around. He also made his way in. Here comes Stephen McCarthy. Now remember, they've got 32% fuel. We're heading towards 10 minutes of the 20. So I think it's round about now at the halfway mark. We're going to start seeing quite a few pit stops.
Luke Lucchesi coming out. Timothy Stanton won't be that long. You can see the lights is flashing, and it looks like that is Steve McCarthy that's working his way out. In fact, they're going to be pretty much almost side by side, and you're very, very close as they come out. So that's Steve McCarthy. Robbie Teens on his way out there as well in the better electrical, one of the Mustangs, one of only 3 Mustangs that's out there. So let's have a look and see how those pit stops is playing out. Who's been in and who has not. Top 6, nobody has been in. Going back to the man up front, Johan Verrie. We're sitting on 10 minutes and 22 seconds. Now, Johan Verrie, frankly, as we know, is normally one of the first guys to go into the pits. Has he got enough space to be able to come out and remain ahead of Luke Lucchesi? Looking at the amount of time that there is between the top guys, in fact between 1st and 6th, if you add that all together, that's roughly how much time you lose if you do a slowdown into the pit lane like that. Oh, hard on the brakes. Francois Hubert dives in there as well. What does Jan Spammers do? I think he's going to probably follow through and... Yep, he follows through and he goes in. So, Herman Lazarus, what does Herman Lazarus do? Remember, Johan Verrie, Francois Hubert, Jan Spammers, they're all in. Herman Lazarus goes in. Swayze Hubert goes in. JJ van der Merwe is the next man coming around. Is JJ going to go in? So, the only man that's already been into the pits, here he comes. Can he get out in time? And that is going to be decided in a couple of seconds from now. Here he comes. There you can see there's the pit lane. And there's Johan Verrie coming out. And there is Francois Hubert as well. Luke Lucchesi hits the front.
Luke Lucchesi has pulled the wool over their eyes. And Lucchesi was the first man to come into the pits. And he has leapfrogged both Johan Verrie and Francois Hubert. As a matter of fact, Johan went in P1. He comes out in P3. Hubert went in P3. Comes out in P2. Lucchesi went out in P2, comes out in P1. So it's all turned around there, first, second and third. And there's still a bit of a fight on here for P6 between Stanton, Lazarus and McCarthy. That is Herman Lazarus in that 7 car, as he's got Swayze Hubert and Timothy Stanton just there ahead of him. And it is Stanton that's trying to hold off Swayze Hubert as they head towards Ascari. Yeah, that's Ascari they're going through now. And we'll have a look-see. No, that's not Ascari that they're going through. As a matter of fact, I think they're going through Lesmo 1, yes. And now heading towards Lesmo 2.
Yep, up towards Lesmo 2. You can see they're all in there. Swayze Hubert, Timothy Stanton and Jan Spalmers, 4th, 5th and 6th respectively. Nothing much between the two of them. Luke Lucchesi somehow did a Johan Fourie on Johan Fourie, got his timing 100% correct, and got it out exactly at the right time.
Still a fight going on here for P5 between Stanton and Hubert. 0.8 of a second between them, as we see our top 3, that is Johan Fourie, that's in that 3rd position. Oh, and Johan hammered the wall. That's a replay of Fourie getting it all wrong. Lost that position there to Francois Hubert. And yeah, that's not exactly what he wanted. But he was behind Francois Hubert in any case when he came out of the pit area.
So that drops Johan Fourie 11 seconds back from Francois Hubert. Jan Spalmers now right in there behind him with the South African colours. So let's drive on board with Jan Spalmers. I think he deserves a little bit of airtime because he is really becoming one of our top drivers. That's what 1.7 seconds looks like.
The question is, what damage is there to the Fourie Holden Commodore, and will it handle it? Yes, Swayze Hubert still going one-on-one with Timothy Stanton, 0.4 of a second between the two of them, and they work their way around. So Swayze Hubert sitting up there in P6. He's just under a second there between himself and Timothy Stanton.
Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2, as they work their way through, use that curbstone as much as you can. There's a fair amount of space on the outside of Lesmo 2, more than what there is on Lesmo 1. But the amount of grip on that green section as opposed to the tar is not very, very even. You can go through there in second gear. Ooh, started to get out of shape there, and that's got him completely offline on his normal line, and that means he's going to lose a bit of ground now going up the straight. And well, he actually did a very good recovery there, because Swayze Hubert is actually closing down on Timothy Stanton as they work their way down the Rettifilio Levanta.
Well, as they go into Parabolica, the final corner, out of Parabolica on the gas, there's the main straight waiting to greet them with that main grandstand, heading down into that very difficult turn 1 and 2 before they head into Curvo Grande. That is Stanton and Swayze Hubert. I see that Herman Lazarus in P7 has been hassled heavily here by Robbie Teens. We'll go there shortly. 0.7 of a second between them as we watch Stanton still trying to fight off Hubert. And that was Stephen McCarthy that got that thing wiggling underneath him, and he's therefore 2.6 seconds behind Robbie Teens. That's only 0.5 of a second behind Herman Lazarus.
Well, the battle between Swayze Hubert and Timothy Stanton seesawing anything between 0.2 and 0.5 of a second. That's just ahead of the fight that we're looking at now. Robbie Teens has to look up on that inside line. Can he make it stick? I think he's just about where he needs to be. If he gets the power down nice and neatly from there, Robbie Teens moves up ahead of Herman Lazarus. But can he hold on to that position? It's going to be a difficult... Oh, that's the problem with getting on the power just too much.
Yeah, and he's going to lose out there to Steve McCarthy as they race underneath that bridge. That's actually part of the old oval. Willem Botha of Race Driver SA Esports. This is a replay of Willem. just flicking the tail end around there, trying very hard, stay off those sausage curbs, that's for sure, and keep on going. A lot of damage to the right hand side there of the Buerta Commodore.
So as we near the end of the race, 17 minutes that's done already of the 20 minutes. Look easy, the man that got to the front end of the field, pretty much because of the fact that his pit stop was blindingly quick. Somehow he got in up to his pit box very, very quickly, got the necessaries done. I trust that he's got enough fuel on board to make it all the way to the end. Not that far behind him. There he comes through now. He's Francois Hubert. He's within 4 seconds, but they're not even in the same camera shot. There is the Monster Energy car of Johan Ferry. Remember, he had that off, and we thought there might be some damage to the car. Either way, he's staying ahead of that man, Jan Spammers, who's once again having a great time. There you see in the background, there comes Timothy Stanton, rounding out the top 5. Swayze Hubert right in there behind him, and in fact having a go at Timothy Stanton, and I think he realizes there's only 2 more minutes to go. Oh, he gets the twist car twisting, as FC Nieuwoud would probably say, quite a bit around the circuit. Robbie Teens in that 7th position. He's still got Steve McCarthy in there behind him. Herman Lazarus just behind that, and look at that, behind Herman Lazarus it's JJ van der Merwe, and then the comeback by Jaco Steyn that's up into that 11th position.
Van der Merwe goes wide, and he will lose that position there to Jaco Steyn. So Jaco Steyn will now be promoted up into the top 10 as they race under the bridge, working their way towards Ascari. Through Ascari they go, but Swayze Hubert heading towards Parabolica. He is crawling all over the back end there of Stanton as they head into the final corner, and that is the fight out there for P5 and 6, and there's just under 3/10 of a second between Stanton and Swayze Hubert as they work their way down into turn number 1. 19 minutes done. We've got 45 seconds left on the clock as these two work their way into that difficult turn 1 and 2, and it is Swayze that tries, but that position gets held there for now by Stanton.
Oh, just look at the twist car as he rolls the tail end around. Well, given that it's 19 minutes and 36 seconds gone, if you look at the red number 1 on your track map coming out of Lesmo 2, that is the lead car. That in fact is Luc Lugisi, while we keep an eye on Swayze Hubert and Timothy Stanton. Keep an eye on that number 1 because this is the last lap for him. It will have gone 20 minutes by the time he gets around to the start finish line. We'll hold on to this battle as long as we can because this could still change. There's no doubt about it.
So the leader is going down that long back straight. You can see there on your track map heading towards Parabolica. As a matter of fact, that is P1 and 2. That's Luc Lucchesi and Francois Hubert working the way out of Parabolica. There's 4.8 seconds between Lucchesi and Hubert. Checkered flag comes out, and Luc Lucchesi wins this one just under 5 seconds ahead of Francois Hubert that finishes in P2.
Johan Ferry that started on the front row of the grid alongside Luc Lucchesi, but had that one off. You can see some of the paintwork on the front of the car doesn't look too Ayoba anymore, but Johan Ferry, never say die, comes through in that 3rd position. Jan Spammers comes through in 4th. Timothy Stanton holding out all the way to the end there, just ahead of Swayze Hubert.
Yeah, 5/10 of a second closing up there, but Stanton has done enough to stay ahead of Swayze. Robbie Teens has just done enough to stay ahead there of Steve McCarthy that does a PB on his final lap, with Jaco Steyn coming home nearly 7 seconds behind them in that 9th position.
JJ van der Merwe comes across the line ahead of Herman Lazarus, and then Renier Hubert comes across the line as well. In the Jack Daniels car, still the Leonardo. Here he comes now. That's in the Mobile 1 car. That's the Leonardo Bakari. Then still Peter Hubert in the Pentel. Remember, he had that heavy shunt there on, and that cost him pretty heavily. I'd like to tell you whether we're going to be inverting the front end of the grid, but I'm not going to be able to tell you because I personally am not 100% sure. I would tend to think that the front end of the grid is going to be inverted. How many? That remains to be seen.
Willem Botha is the last man out on track, 15 seconds behind Peter Hubert, and he will sadly finish in 15th and last position.
He doesn't
All
look
15
overly,
cars on the lead lap.
he didn't look overly disappointed as he came across the line. So, how's it? Oh, there we go. There goes the invert. So, interesting stuff. Luke Lucchesi, they've inverted the top 12, in fact. Renier Hubert from Herman Lazarus, JJ van der Merwe, Now, Jaco Steyn starting ahead of the big hitters will fancy his chances here. Steve McCarthy, lovely to have him back again with Robbie Teings rounding out the front 3 rows.
Sway Hubert, Timothy Stanton, row 4, row 5, Jan Sparmers and Johan Fourie, row 6, Francois Hubert, Luke Lucchesi, row 7, Leonardo Bakari and Peter Hubert, and on his own in row 8 is Willem Botha.
Sure, this is going to be interesting stuff. Frankie, let's do that stupid thing.
No, don't ask for predictions.
Okay, I say Luke Lucchesi from 12th position is going to be a hell of a difficult one. I think Francois Hubert starting ahead of Luke Lucchesi will probably stay ahead of Luke Lucchesi. Johan Fourie starting ahead of them will probably stay ahead of them. So, having said that, first, second, and third on paper would be Johan Fourie, Luke Lucchesi, and Francois Hubert. But to get all the way through is going to be difficult. I predict if Jaco Steyn gets a gap, he's gone. I predict if Timothy Stanton can keep a bit of space, if Jan Sparmers can be a bit of a buffer between himself, Luke, Francois, and Johan, I think Timothy Stanton could probably work his way a fair amount up the grid as well. But the wild card to me in the front end for a quick getaway, just maybe, Jaco Steyn.
Brave predictions made there by Mr. Gary Fleming.
Let's have a look. Come on, Frankie, give it a go. What do you say about
the bottom line is, you got these hot shots coming through from mid-back, Fourie and Lucchesi in P10 and 11, Francois P12, and if these guys ahead of them get a panic attack, then it could cause chaos for them, or chaos in general. Right, out of Parabolica, the final corner, Botha just holding back slightly, Peter Hubert darts to the left, and away we go here for the second race. 20 minutes, Botha just hanging back. You can see there's a gap between himself and the rest of them as he just watches them. Bakar is also hanging back as there's the chaos. There's the chaos I spoke about.
And Johan Fourie is one of them.
Johan Fourie is definitely one of them. Peter Hubert is another one of them. And that is what I was talking about. If the guys up front start to panic, then you're going to have drama going into turn 1 and 2.
So Renier Hubert, the man that's going to be leading them out at this stage of the fight. This is going to be pretty interesting stuff. Renier Hubert with Herman Lazarus. Now, Herman Lazarus is getting quicker and quicker all the time. And you don't get away from Herman Lazarus very easy, but they're still very, very close at this stage of the fight. JJ van der Merwe right in there. Jaco Steyn in that 4th position. Steve McCarthy holding on to the back of him as well.
Yeah, Sway Hubert was also part of that situation. But somehow Luke Lucchesi in P7 escaped all of this. There's drama furthermore at the back of the field. Timothy Stanton's all over the place. Leonardo Bakari is all over the place. And man, it's just ripping itself apart here on the opening lap.
So Timothy Stanton was one of the big losers in that one, and Leonardo Bakari out there as well. We'll go back just now and go and have a look at some of those incidents that have happened, but while they're still nice and close, we don't want to miss out on anything. Renier Hubert from Herman Lazarus having a go up on the inside line. Is Jaco Steyn? Can he make that one stick? No. It's Stephen McCarthy that's trying to follow through there. I think Jaco's probably going to get the driver on the inside line. Yes, he does. Here comes Jaco Steyn. Jaco Steyn up on the inside of JJ van der Merwe. 17th of a thousandth of a second between them. 2,000ths, and he makes the passing maneuver. But can he make it stick? Remember, there's more grip on the left-hand side of the road. Oh, they alongside one another. Where is the better grip? And, oh, that's going to cause problems. Where does he come back across the track? Well, he doesn't. Somehow he makes a plan not to come across the track. And JJ van der Merwe does a lovely job of that one. and manages to stay in there. Steve McCarthy, the man that just lost out with that one.
Yeah, it was a big off there by McCarthy. Didn't lose too much though, but he did lose a couple of positions. But Renier Hubert, I saw earlier on, posted the quickest lap out there, and this is Steyn on Van der Merwe. Behind Van der Merwe is Lucchese. Nothing between them. Fourth, now he's got him. Lucchese's got his nose ahead of Van der Merwe, going into that right-hander. He's going to pull away from JJ. That's now been demoted down to P5. And Lucchese 1.1 seconds behind Jaco Steyn. That's in that third position. And he's 1.2 behind Herman Lazarus, that finds himself in that second position.
Herman, I think, will be a little bit on the confident side with this one. You're not going to get to Herman very easily. Remember I said Jaco Steyn, if he gets a bit of a gap, he's going to be one of the guys that is going to be up in that front grouping. The big hitters, Luc Lucchese, Johan Ferry and Francois Hubert. Johan Ferry right at the back of the pack. He was involved with that initial one. Francois Hubert in 7th position behind Jan Spalmers, not an easy man to pass whatsoever. And then Luc Lucchese, the only one of the top 3 big hitters that has got through so far. 3 minutes 35. Jaco Steyn 0.4 behind Herman Lazarus, but looking back towards Luc Lucchese just outside of a second.
149.806. Renier Hubert. Now Lucchese with a 149.107. No, now it's Francois Hubert with a 149 dead. He is the quickest man out there, sitting in P7. But there's your race leader, Renier Hubert. Here is Jaco Steyn. He's all over the back end there of Lazarus. That's there in that second position. 0.2 of a second between Herman and Jaco. And they're chasing down Renier Hubert. There's only 1.1 between Hubert and Lazarus.
Well, Jaco Steyn knows he's got a go-go because he's got a quickie in there behind him. Remember, last time we spoke about it, Luc Lucchese was a second off. He's now starting to close. Now, Jaco Steyn putting a lot of pressure on Herman Lazarus. Lazarus, we know, doesn't make mistakes very easily whatsoever. He will fancy his chances because he's pretty much holding on to Renier Hubert. I don't think Renier is the fastest out there. There goes Jaco Steyn. Jaco Steyn knows he's got to go and fetch Renier Hubert. 1.4 seconds is the difference between himself and Renier Hubert. And Jaco Steyn knows that once Luc Lucchese is on your back bumper, you cannot get rid of him. Now he manages to put Herman Lazarus between himself and Luc Lucchese. He runs it very wide. He's on the edge. He's got a problem. It's called Luc Lucchese, and it's closing from behind.
Yeah, Lucchese is now going to make the move there, surely on the 69 of Lazarus. He will get him going into the Parabolica. Surely he must have him. Yes, he does. He's up to P3. He's Luc Lucchese. So Lucchese now 0.3 of a second behind Jaco Steyn. So all that hard work will be undone by Luc Lucchese on Jaco Steyn as they work their way towards turn 1 and 2. Look at Jaco Steyn covering the line, going into that right-hander. You'll dive left immediately, but he might lose out. No, he's not. As a matter of fact, Lazarus is coming right back again there at Lucchese.
Well, I tell you what, Herman Lazarus was using first gear coming out there, so lots of throttle control and response. But remember, Francois Hubert is just behind that. There's Francois Hubert. Francois Hubert closing on a...
Whoa,
somebody
Jaco's
just went.
Gone.
Jaco Steyn must have been Jaco that went off. Let's see if we can pick that one up. Yes. And Jaco Steyn has crashed. Herman Lazarus has crashed. Spalmers has crashed as well. It's total chaos. Let's see if we can pick up some of that. There is the Jaco Steyn incident. Oh, yes, Jaco Steyn, they just made a bit of contact. He came back onto the track.
There by Lucchese.
Yeah, on the grass, couldn't slow it down. Bang, he went into the side of the 69 car. And that was Herman Lazarus that he took out. So from there on out, there was nowhere for Jan Spalmers to go. Let's just see what happened with Jan Spalmers. He comes along, he's done nothing wrong, slows it down as much as he can, and chaos erupts in front of him, and then comes across him, and then he gets nailed from behind as well. Now, unfortunately for Francois Hubert, he was the man that was at the back of this whole lot. He had nowhere to go, and he comes in, it's all fine, the road opens up, and the road closes up in front of him. And, well, he manages to get it going. Not too much damage to that motor car. Herman Lazarus had additional incident that happened thereafter. Yep, there you can see that's how it actually happened. So 2 contacts there for Herman Lazarus, and that makes a big difference. The man that's gone into the pits, in fact, is Peter Hubert, as Renier Hubert leads them out.
Renier still sitting out there in P1. Now, that was chaos and drama. Lucchesi in that second position. Willem Botha has been booted up all the way to that third place, but he has got Stephen McCarthy right there with him, and Francois Hubert busy making a comeback. Herman Lazarus got some battle scars from that situation you saw earlier on that cheapercars.co.za Holden, and now Lazarus and Francois Hubert virtually side by side. Herman has got the line for that left-hander, and Herman goes through. Herman goes through as he busy making his way out. There is Lazarus. They're all working towards Lesmo 1. Herman Lazarus losing that position again there to Francois Hubert. Stephen McCarthy darting through and goes onto the grass. And yeah, the 12 car of Renier is right there with him. Remember, Renier had the lead for a while, and while all this was going down, Luc Lucchesi finds himself in P1.
Francois Hubert having another look there at the back end of Herman Lazarus, and Herman running it just a little bit hard and wide. Remember I said Herman doesn't very easily make mistakes, but he's definitely feeling the pressure. There's no doubt about it. Herman Lazarus being closed down there by one of the quickies, Francois Hubert. Francois still outside of the top 5. Luc Lucchesi's gone to the front. Francois Hubert is on his way to the front, and Johan Fourie still in 9th position.
There's a fight once again. Swiss Hubert, Timothy Stanton for P7. The two of them are right there with each other. There we go. This time Stanton finds himself behind Swiss as they make their way around, coming out that final corner, and it looks as if Swiss has moved into pit lane. Yes, he has. Swiss Hubert in pit lane. Francois Hubert has also gone into the pit lane. Jaco Steyn as well.
Renier Hubert in a pretty decent 4th position right now. Francois Hubert, as you said, has gone into the pits. Let's see who has done pit stops so far and who has not. Well, Johan Fourie is the top runner that has been into the pits. So the distance from Johan Fourie to Luc Lucchesi, I think Luc can get in and out and stay ahead of Johan Fourie.
Yeah, well, he's 8.1 seconds ahead of Willem Botha. However, McCarthy and Hubert, that is Stephen and Renier, having their own little fight. Oh, Renier gets a Jack Daniels car out of shape and hammers the Vibrecrete wall there on his right hand side.
Herman Lazarus gets through and takes up that position. It looked like Steve McCarthy, and who was that? That was Willem Botha. That was Willem Botha that went off. Oh my goodness, it's all gone wrong for Willem Botha. Yep, he got onto the gas and it got away from him. He got on the gas a second time and it got completely away from him. Now he's got to be very careful that he doesn't go back out onto the circuit without damaging it, and everybody just comes piling past. There was Timothy Stanton that just came through. A nice little recovery spin that, I must say, looked very professional the way that he came through there. So Timothy Stanton finds himself behind Renier Hubert with Luc Lucchesi's gone in. Lucchesi's into the pit lane. Oh, he's already behind the pit wall, and so is a Steve McCarthy. What
that
about
means
Herman
all the
Lazarus?
others will go in as well.
Herman Lazarus dives in as well. So what about Renier Hubert? Renier Hubert is in, and so is Timothy Stanton. So the next man to come through there is Willem Botha. Willem Botha is going to dive in as well. That means Johan Fourie, the only man that does not, doesn't need to go into the pits right now, and he goes through to the front. Luc Lucchesi's on the pit exit. Who's it going to be? It's going to be Luc Lucchesi that's coming up to speed, and here comes Johan Fourie behind him. Luc Lucchesi just holds off and holds on to that lead position.
Well, remember that Fourie will now leapfrog them all, which he has, into that second position. Remember, he had to pit earlier on. Will those tires and fuel last until the checkered flag? Because there's no ways that he can work himself into the pits again and still have a top chance for a top 3. Peter Hubert sits in that 3rd position with the Pennzoil car. Remember, he had trouble and drama out there in race number 1. And currently he finds himself in 3rd. JJ van der Merwe in 4th. Jan Spalmers in P5. Steve McCarthy P6. Francois Hubert P7. Rainier Hubert is in P8. Swiss Hubert in P9. And then Timothy Stanton in P10. And there's only 1.4 between Swiss and Timothy. Just outside the top 10 is Willem Botha in that 11th position. But back to the front, Fourie is not lying down. There is not. He goes up on the inside. We might have a new leader. We do. And Johan Fourie puts the Monster Energy Holden ahead of Luc Lucchesi, Gaza. But here comes Peter Hubert as well.
Was that contact? Yes, I do.
Might have just
I do think that was a little bit of contact.
him out the way.
There's your word for the day. He chaperoned him out of the way. Johan Fourie from Luc Lucchesi. Peter Hubert coming into play this time around. And Luc Lucchesi's gone into the pits. Well, that's going to take him completely out of it. There's no ways you're going to possibly catch up from there. So, the man of the match right now, this man on screen, Peter Hubert. Brilliant stuff in 2nd position.
After a nightmare race in the opening heat, he's looking a lot more feistier in the 2nd one. JJ van der Merwe has been bumped up all the way to P3, 7/10 of a second ahead of Jan Spalmers. And here comes Francois Hubert up on the inside of Steve McCarthy. And Francois makes the move stick there on McCarthy. And that's that fight for P5.
Yep, just a little bit further behind that, that's Rainier Hubert in the Jack Daniels car. Then just 3 seconds behind him, there he comes again, there's Timothy Stanton. Swiss Hubert just ahead of the recovering Willem Botha.
Willem Botha in P10, 3/10 of a second between himself and Swiss. That's the nose cam of the race driver SA eSports machine of Willem Botha. Car 23 in P10. Oh, Swiss has got that thing's tail all over the place, and he's going to lose that position there to Botha as we have a look here at Spalmers and Van der Merwe, and Spalmers goes through ahead of Van der Merwe up into P3.
Well, he's going to be very, very late on the brakes. They're using all the curbstone and a bit more. Actually, a very good piece of driving there by Jan Spalmers, because he was ton up going into that left-right flick and managed to hold on to it. So 15 minutes down, Johan Fourie from Peter Hubert, Jan Spalmers. So who was the top guys that we spoke about coming through? We spoke about Johan Fourie, we spoke about Francois Hubert, we spoke about Luc Lucchesi. Francois Hubert looked to be the worst off up until recently. He's up into the top 5. Luc Lucchesi looked to be the best of everybody. He's had to go back into the pits. He's right down in 13th position. And with 4.5 minutes to go, I don't think he's going to make up. Johan Fourie somehow finds his way back to the front end of the field once again. The mark of a champion.
Personal best there for JJ van der Merwe, who's 8/10 of a second behind Jan Spalmers. JJ in the Bigfoot Express and Fanatec Holden Commodore. That's what it looks like in the cockpit area of the Van der Merwe Commodore by Bigfoot Express. Just ahead of him you see Jan Spalmers. 1.1 between Spalmers and Van der Merwe. Nothing between the two of them as they work their way around. That's that second chicane. Now they head towards Lesmo. That's Lesmo 1. They're working their way through. Bit of a jab on the accelerator before you work your way through and out of Lesmo 2. But Luc Lucchesi is coming back and makes the move stick there on Herman Lazarus.
Yep, so he moves up 1, but then again 6 seconds to go to get to Robbie Teams. 3.5 minutes left. I don't think he's going to go any further than that.
Yeah, I think I'm not too sure why he came into the pits a second time. He was in trouble out there, and he was nudged by Fourie, but I think he might have had a problem because that thing was all over the place. But yeah, I don't know. I think Johan just said to him, "Excuse me, this is my line."
So with 10 laps down and 17 minutes that's already gone in this race. Let's have a look from the front end down. Johan Fourie, multiple main circuit V8 South African champion in the monster car that leads them out.
From Pieter Joubert in second, 1.2. Well done here. This is a good one. This is Jan Spalmers and Francois Joubert up through on the inside of JJ van der Merwe, and van der Merwe makes contact with Francois, and trouble out there for both of them because here comes Steve McCarthy, and behind them comes Rainier Joubert, Timothy Stanton, and Willem Botha will come through as well.
I would have thought he would have rolled out of the gas and not turned Francois all the way around, but so be it. That's the way that it is. Rainier Joubert has just made the passing maneuver on a JJ van der Merwe.
Yeah, so will van der Merwe come back at him? Looks like it. 0.4 of a second between them. And not far behind them is Botha. He's only 1.5, so Botha's closing up on that fight for P5 between Rainier Joubert and JJ van der Merwe. So Botha's getting closer, but he's bringing Timothy Stanton with him as well.
Francois Joubert having a little bit of a moment there. I think it's a bit of red mist and a bit of damage on the motor car, just climbing on the gas. You can see there's lots of rubber on the back, but there's just more kilowatts than what there is rubber if you get the hammer down just a little bit too quickly. Francois Joubert just had an off circuit as well. As you can see, there's the other footage of him as he comes back onto the circuit. And, well, Luc Lequier is still leading them out very neatly.
Well, the time is beginning to run out on this one. We have got 55 seconds left. And the leader will be on his last lap. Yeah, it's 19 minutes and 15 seconds gone. And your leader, Johan Fourie, is busy working his way through Curva Grande. So this will be the last lap for Johan Fourie. And for everybody else, Rainier is having a good fight here with Steve McCarthy. They are side by side. As a matter of fact, Botha is side by side with van der Merwe, and right behind them is Stanton. So there's a heck of a fight going on there between the five of them.
Well, everybody trying to make a bit of space for everybody, but there is just so little ground there. That's a second gear exit to that corner. You've really got to hold on very, very tight to be able to make it out of that corner. And this whole section that you see them on, this is flat foot all the way down to the brake markers, up into fifth gear and all the way down to second.
Oh, this is a good one out there. This is a lovely fight. Rainier Joubert. Here comes Willem Botha having a look up on the inside there of Steve McCarthy. Then Stanton is right on the back end there of the van der Merwe Commodore. As they, there's chaos, there's drama out there, and van der Merwe finds himself sideways.
Yep, unfortunately, just too many cars in too small an area, and that was the end of that one. Timothy Stanton's not giving up on the back end of Steve McCarthy, and I don't know if he's going to be able to make it because there's not that much time there, although he's closed up very, very neatly. Let's go to the front end of the field. Johan Fourie coming up towards the line.
Fourie coming through to win the second one. Only 2.5 seconds between himself and Pieter Joubert that finishes second. Well done there to Pieter Joubert. 14 seconds behind the two of them is Jan Spalmers that finishes on the podium.
I think Jan Spalmers will be very chuffed to that. I think Pieter Joubert will be very chuffed. I think he's almost going to be driver of the day for the second race.
So Rainier Joubert coming through, and he's just going to hold off Willem Botha for P4 and 5. Timothy Stanton heading towards us, just ahead of Stephen McCarthy, just ahead there of Swiss Joubert.
Robbie Teens and Luc Lequier, and then Francois Joubert coming through directly behind that with Herman Lazarus, and then the man that just spun, that was JJ van der Merwe that comes through. You can see quite a bit of road rash on the front of that motor car, and then Leonardo Beccari, and 6 laps down, Jaco Steyn did not come back out of the pit, so he must have had too much damage on that motor car.
So Beccari is the last man. 14 of the 15 cars finished, all 14 of them on the lead lap, and he does a personal best of a 151.441 on his last lap.
Interesting stuff. Lord, let's go and have a look, see how it looked in the feature race. Johan Ferry from Pity Bear, from Jan Swarmers, Renier Bear, and Willem Botha. That's how the feature race played itself out. Let's have a look at the results of heat number 1. Luc de Kezi from Francois Joubert, Johan Ferry. So Jan Swarmers picking up a very good result in both of those races. There he comes through in 4th position. And there he comes through in 3rd position. If you look at that one, Johan Ferry winning that one, but then Johan Ferry in the 2nd race finds himself a long, long way down. Where is, in fact, Johan Ferry? There he is, number 3.
That's heat 1.
Yeah, that's heat number 1. So Johan Ferry and Jan Swarmers must be pretty close on points between the two of them. Let's see if the computer will give us the overall. No, it doesn't want to give us the overall. So let's go back to that feature race. Johan Ferry from Pity Bear, Jan Swarmers, Renier Bear, and Willem Botha rounding out the top 5.
Then Timothy Stanton in P6, followed by Steve McCarthy, Sway Joubert, Robbie Teens, Luc Lucchesi, and then Francois Joubert, Herman Lazarus, Johannes van der Merwe, JJ in P13, and the last man out there in P14, Leonardo Bakari.
Driver of the day?
Look, for consistency in race 1 and 2, I'm going to go for Jan Swarmers.
Yep. Second choice to Jan Swarmers for driver of the day. Francois Joubert, you would expect there. Luc Lucchesi, Johan Ferry, you would expect all of them there. Yep. Timothy Stanton, pretty good run by Timothy Stanton. A nice run by Steve McCarthy. Unlucky for Jaco Steyn. Herman Lazarus at one stage of the fight looking very, very strong. Unfortunately, dropping down in that specific race and not getting the kind of result that he wanted overall.
So, we look forward to next week, and I think we are at, just have a look and see here quickly, let you know exactly where we are racing next weekend, or should I say next Wednesday, the 29th, we are at the Hungaro Ring in the Radical sports car, the Radical SR8.
That's going to be something else. Who's that in that cloud of smoke? Somebody having a bit of fun out there doing some burnouts. So, folks, that wraps it up for this evening. Thanks very much for joining us from the Second Gear Production Studios. Myself, Gary Fleming, and the voice of Western Promise Motorsport, Frankie Yennis. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. Season 8 of the Western Province Sports and GT Masters. 15 entries out there. No less than 5 guys that are traveling for business, 4 of which are overseas at the moment, that said, sorry, we're not going to be able to make it for tonight, but we will be out there for the next one. So looking very close to 20 for the next event out there. Colin Plitt is traveling overseas. Gerald Maget, who's also presently traveling. Ian Riddle, also one of the guys that's off traveling as well. So we look forward to seeing them back with us. Frankie, closing word from your side.
Yeah, looking forward to the Hungaro Ring in the Radical sport car. I think it's going to be pretty interesting stuff. And then lots of local motorsport happening around Cape Town. I know there's oval track racing at Killarney. There's oval track racing up in Worcester. There's motocross at Zone 7. But there's motorsport all over the country. So wherever you find yourself throughout the country, support the racing that's happening at all the different clubs nationwide.
From the Second Gear Studio, good night to you, one and all.